got better lighting here. Different camera. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirahi. Of all the devotees, this Govardhana Hill is the best. O my friends, for Krishna and Balaram, along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends, this hill supplies all necessities, caves, fruits, flowers, edible roots, water for drinking, and very soft grass. In this way, the hill offers respect to the Lord. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhana Hill appears very jubilant. Commentary. Okay, we're back. Maharaj Pariksit cites a verse in praise of Govardhan, 10:21-18, spoken by another of the gopis. She addresses her girlfriends with the interjection Hanta, which expresses joy and amazement. This hill Govardhan, she says, is certainly the best of all the servants of Lord, who is named Hari because he takes away everyone's sins and miseries in everyone's heart. As evidence that Govardhan is the best of Krishna's devotees, she mentions that from the touch of his lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, he displays ecstasy, the grass growing on his body looking just like bodily hair standing on end, the water trickling down his sides looking like perspiration. Furthermore, Govardhan performs elaborate worship not only for Krishna and Balaram but also of their cows and cowherd friends. In addition to the cows, the word go indicates that other animals herded by Krishna, buffaloes and goats and others. The Ganas are Krishna's companions, Balaram, Sridham and other cowherd boys. Govardhan worships them all with the things that give them special pleasure, including drinks, paniya, like water, honey, and sugarcane juice. He also offers su yavas, excellent grass, or, taking su to mean various products like fruits and flowers, he offers such things along with fresh grass. In his caves he provides beds and seats made of stones and lamps and mirrors made of jewels. He gives various root vegetables for Krishna and the boys to eat. Thus he is the best of Krishna's devotees, because with loving devotion he serves not only Krishna, but also Krishna's brother, his friends, and his cows. By saying this, and calling the other girls abala, feeble girls, the gopis speaking implies that she and the other gopis are less fortunate than Govardhan, bewildered by their love for Krishna. They lack the strength to render such valuable service. Another way to understand the words Rama, Krishna, Charana, Sparasha, Pramoda is that Krishna's feet give happiness to the entire world and always enjoy many kinds of sports. Govardhan delights in those two lotus feet whenever they touch the stones on his surface, which then at once become soft like newly churned butter and very cool, or else slightly warm, as may suit the time. By taking yet another meaning of Rama and Charana, Krishna's playful behavior, Charana, is enchanting Rama for the entire world. Govardhan takes pleasure, Pramoda, in helping Krishna reveal his enchanting pastimes, which bring everyone in the world in contact, Sparasha, with his lotus feet. Because we gopis cannot do what Govardhan does, the speaker of this verse seems to say, we are condemned. Thus, even though the gopis are full of all virtues, they consider themselves inadequate. Such is the natural dissatisfaction of persons on the highest levels of pure love of God. In the company of Balaram and the cowherd boys, Lord Krishna is continually vibrating his flute as he herds all the animals of Vraj, even under the full heat of the summer sun. Seeing this, the cloud in the sky has expanded himself out of love. He is rising high and constructing from his own body, with his multitude of flower-like droplets of water, an umbrella for the sake of his friend. Commentary. Maharaj Pariksit has glorified Brajabhumi in a general way by praising its principal attractions, the Vrindavan forest and Govardhana Hill. Now, in 41 verses, beginning with this one, Bhagavatam 10:21-16, he will continue to glorify Vrajabhumi by praising various forms of life in Vraj. One after another, in order of increasing importance, he selects those living beings that receive Krishna's special mercy, each in his own way. We can understand that King Pariksit, while reciting each of these verses, felt something of the individual ecstatic moods of the devotees he was describing. The clouds in the sky above Brajbhumi may not have taken birth inside Braja, and by ordinary judgment may not even be considered living beings, but simply by floating over Braja and obtaining Krishna's mercy, they have come to life. Therefore the gopis glorify them. The gopis single out a particular cloud that went out of its way to serve Krishna. That cloud once saw Krishna, Balaram, and their friends herding their countless cows, buffaloes, and other animals, and letting the animals wander even in the hot summer sun. Krishna playing constantly on his flute. The cloud guessed that Krishna and his friends might be getting tired. So he placed himself just above the spot where the boys gathered at midday, on the relatively cool ground in the shade of the circle of trees, listening to Krishna play his flute and call out to the cows. The cloud, filled with ecstasy, rumbled with gentle thunder, as if his voice were ecstatically choking in his throat, and sprinkled fine drops of rain as if to shed ecstatic tears of joy. These offerings of love inspired Krishna to encourage the cows even more in his sweet, deep voice to take advantage of the opportunity to eat plenty of grass. The cows increasing ecstasy as he watched Krishna, the clouds increasing ecstasy as he watched Krishna from closer and closer, made the cloud go bigger and bigger. He could presume himself Krishna's friend because both he and Krishna were fully absorbed in working for the welfare of the world. So as a person generally serves a dear friend, the cloud took care to serve Krishna. Like a huge umbrella, he shaded Krishna, and he poured down a cooling rain. The cloud's raindrops were called its flowers. So the drops that fell on the boys were like small flowers, or else the cloud literally showered them with heavenly flowers. This cloud gave special pleasure to Krishna by trying to serve not only Krishna, but also his brother Balaram and all the cowherd boys and cows and other animals. By describing the situation, the gopi speaking means to say, "My dear girls, that cloud is most fortunate, but we are unfortunate. In every respect, our fate is just the opposite of his. When Krishna goes out to herd his cows, we hardly ever have a chance to see him. And even if we do, we become bewildered by hearing his flute. Distressed by love, we become debilitated, unable to act. How can we do any practical service for Krishna like shading him from the noontime sun?" Next verse. When the rivers hear the flute song of Krishna, their minds begin to desire him, and thus the flow of their current breaks, and their agitated waters move around in whirlpools. Then with the arms of their waves, the riverbanks embrace Murari's lotus feet, and holding onto them, present offerings of lotus flowers. The rivers in Braj receive even greater mercy than the clouds. To externalize, the rivers may seem unconscious, but they are not ordinary bodies of water. Thus another gopi sings this verse, 10:21-15, in praise of all the rivers, headed by Sri Yamuna and Manasi Ganga. Or else only one river is being praised, namely Yamuna, and she is being referred to in the plural out of great respect. In any case, since the other rivers of Braja are Sri Yamuna's companions, she is glorified, so they're all glorified. Krishna is called Mukunda because he is the bestower of supreme happiness. The vibration of his flute is the sweetest of all songs. When he plays his flute near the rivers, the sound enters the rivers' ears and captures their hearts, making them feel the intense attraction of Cupid, which brings agitated whirlpools to their surface and stops their flowing currents. Or understanding the word lakshita differently, the rivers undergo many thousands of ecstatic transformations caused by desire. If the words Mukunda Gitam Avarta are split instead as Mukunda Gita Mavarta, the luxuriant potency Ma of the song from Sri Mukunda's flute brings about recurring waves Avarta of ecstatic symptoms, which disclose that the rivers are feeling agitated by Cupid. The gopi, speaking in the depth of her love for Krishna, is too confused and fearful to mention his flute explicitly, but obviously enough the words Tat and Gitam, which refer back to previous verses, imply the flute. The waves of the river are like arms with which rivers take hold of Krishna's feet in utter humility, gently covering his lotus feet in their embrace. The rivers do this just to calm the fever of lust in their hearts. If instead of covered we take shagitam to mean unmoving, the rivers embrace Krishna's lotus feet with loving enthusiasm, even though those feet are unmoved, too proud to reciprocate. Or else, taking shagitam to mean stopped, Krishna's feet are very restless, always moving here and there, yet they become tranquil by the pleasant touch of the river's embrace. The rivers express their love for Krishna by catching hold of his feet with their waves. Any river fortunate enough to have Krishna standing within her waters would certainly want to offer suitable worship to his divine feet, but the force of Cupid's attraction bewilders the river and slows their currents, so despite possessing immense treasures of jewels, pearls, and other riches, the rivers can manage to present only lotus flowers. Or reading the word Kamala as a female name, by convention, a name of the goddess Lakshmi, the rivers who worship Krishna with their embraces are themselves worshipped by Lakshmi. When the rivers hear the enchanting song of Krishna's flute, they forget their normal tendency to float toward their husband, the ocean. Instead, they turn still and assume human-like forms. And instead of their own gems and pearls, they offer Krishna his favorite, Vraja-grown lotuses, presenting them on top of a golden necklaces, Upaharaha. The rivers would touch the 2 feet of Sri Murari with their many long arms, their waves, and hold his feet firm in their embrace. Therefore, the Gopi says, we are not actually fortunate, but these rivers are. Not only are we unable to listen to the song of Krishna's flute, but our desire to be with Krishna does not stop the endless flow of service to our husbands, nor our other household duties. We cannot appear before him in person, nicely dressed, and suitably ornamented for his worship, nor do we have many long, broad arms with which we can stop the restlessness of his lotus feet and place them on our breasts. Next verse. The trees and creepers in the forest respond to the sound by becoming so luxuriant with fruits and flowers that they seem to be manifesting Lord Vishnu within their hearts, as their branches bend low with the weight. The filaments on their trunks and vines stand erect in the ecstasy of love of God, and both the trees and the creepers pour down a rain of sweet sap. Commentary. Greater than the clouds and rivers are the forest plants, who are sentient beings. Another of the gopis recites this verse from the Bhagavatam, 10:35-9, in praise of the trees and creepers of Vrindavan, who have the great fortune to associate with Krishna during the day. The gopis, by singing these verses to remind themselves of Krishna, how Krishna is enjoying in the forest, achieve some solace from the pain of being separated from him. In the previous verse of the Bhagavatam, number 8, the gopis sang of Krishna's playing his flute to call the cows, Venu Avayati Ga Sa Yadahi. This is the sound of the trees, thus the sound of the trees and creepers are responding to the sound of Krishna's flute. The flute song directly addresses the cows, not the trees and creepers. Yet the trees and creepers of Vrindavan and the other forests of Braj react in ecstasy, pouring down a continuous flow of sap. It seems that they behold the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere, inside their hearts and outside. And though the all-pervasive Supreme Lord Vishnu appears in numerous forms, they see him in the one form who submits himself to the control of pure devotion, Sri Nanda Kishore. The creepers try to hide that they are seeing him, as one might try to hide that one is seeing a rare and secret treasure. But their ecstatic love confounds their attempts. Unwittingly, they let everyone see that Krishna is manifest in their hearts. The symptoms of Krishna's inner presence are obvious. The creepers are outwardly rich with an endless supply of fruits and flowers, and their branches bend low, not only from the weight of those fruits and flowers, but also from the inner mood of humility, which shows a deep wealth of good qualities derived from piety and spiritual knowledge. Moreover, the gross and subtle bodies of the creepers show signs of transcendental ecstasy, evidence that the creepers possess a deeper inner wealth of pure devotion. The creepers, and also their husbands, the trees, are fully endowed with these symptoms of external and internal wealth. The gopis mention these creepers before the trees because the creepers are women like themselves. These creepers and trees very much resemble Sri Krishna's devotees, who are rich with the fruits of beauty, aristocracy, wealth, and influence, and with the flowers of children and other family members. Krishna's devotees are rich with the flower-like Vedas, which offer lush promises of rewards, are richly steeped in study of the Vedas and performance of Vedic sacrifices, and are also rich with the fruits of enjoyment in this life and the next. Nonetheless, these devotees remain always bowed down in humility, shyness, and other saintly qualities, and their family members, Vitta Paha, show these qualities as well. The devotees of the Lord try to keep Sri Vishnu hidden in their hearts, like a housewife who tries to conceal her extramarital affair. But the Lord so thoroughly pervades the inner and outer workings of all the senses of that the devotees cannot keep him from openly shining forth, especially when they hear the song of Krishna's flute. Their intensified love expresses itself in their bodies as horripilation on their limbs, and they shed torrents of ecstatic tears and show other signs of joy, as indicated in this verse by the words Vanjayantya Eva, as if exhibiting. Vaishnavas naturally want to respect the sanctity of their prema by not showing it to anyone and everyone. Prema should not be allowed to degrade into cheap public spectacle. But when symptoms of increased ecstasy appear on their bodies, Vaishnavas sometimes cannot completely conceal their inner feeling. The songs like this one that the gopis sing in the 35th chapter of the 10th canto differ from their complaints of separation from Krishna, cited earlier from previous chapters. Before, the gopis mostly lamented their bad fortune, but now they are seriously trying to raise themselves above the misery of being separated from Krishna during the day. By singing these songs, they actually feel great joy, as Shukadev states at the end of the chapter, 35:26. O king, during the daytime the women of Vrindavan thus took pleasure in continuously singing about the pastimes of Krishna, and the minds and hearts of those women absorbed in him were filled with great festivity. Although the women intensely felt the pain of separation from Krishna, by singing about his pastimes, they were able to keep their minds fixed on him, and so they were happy even during the day. At the beginning of chapter 35, Srila Sukadeva also said, Whenever Krishna went to the forest, the minds of the gopis would run after him, and thus the young girls, although saddened, spent their days singing of his pastimes. This statement can be understood to mean that even though being apart from Krishna made the gopis sad, they managed to pass the days happily, Ninu, by singing about his pastimes. According to the explanation given by Srila Sridhar Swami, the gopi praising the creepers and trees of Vrindavan means to say, if even the plant life has such deep love for Krishna, how can we be expected to tolerate being separated from him? All the same, by singing the glories of Krishna, whose transcendental body is the essence of all bliss, the gopis feel great pleasure. Their songs are not pitiful lamentations, but the highest revelations of ecstatic love. Or if one prefers to see the negative side of love and separation, the word mahodaya, festivity, can be understood to mean, ironically, to indicate just the opposite of what it literally means. That is to say, because the hearts of the gopis burn incessantly in the fire of prema, they never enjoy a moment's happiness. Next verse. The original personality, these bees must all be great sages and most elevated devotees of yours, for they are worshipping you by following you along the path and chanting your glories, which are themselves a holy place for the entire world. Though you have disguised yourself within this forest, O sinless one, they refuse to abandon you, their worshipable Lord. Commentary. Better than non-moving creatures are those who can move, beginning with the insects, bugs, and worms. Pariksit Maharaj now recounts Lord Krishna's praise of the bees who follow him, Brother Balaram, wherever he goes. 10.15.6. As explained before, the praise is also applicable to Krishna himself. These bees never stop chanting Krishna's glories, which are like holy pilgrimage sites that bestow spiritual upliftment on all living beings. Krishna's glories are like universally magnanimous spiritual master, can deliver any person, whether fit to be saved or not. These glories bestow upon everyone who comes in contact with him divine knowledge of the greatness of pure devotional service. So, a little idea of the value of book distribution. People hear about Krishna. Even they're not deserving, they have no idea. Devotees benedictum. The bees that follow Krishna are great sages, but not sages like a self-satisfied impersonalist. They are Krishna's devotees, Bhavadiya. And of his devotees, they are among the most elevated, Mukhya, because although Krishna hides himself in the forest, they never stop following him. He is their all in all, the Lord of their life. To join him in the forest, they disguise themselves as bees and thus take the opportunity to worship him along with their songs. Here Lord Krishna calls Balaram Adi Purusha, the original Supreme Person. This means that the bees who are always with Krishna are among the Adi Sevakas, and Krishna, the Lord's original eternal servants. They always worship him suitably according to the various pastimes he performs. Sri Krishna also calls Balaram Anaga, meaning sinless, free from all faults, neglectful of all offenses against him, and granting salvation from all miseries. Because Krishna is Anaga in these ways, the bees can never abandon him. They worship him in any circumstance, fearless of reactions for their offenses and confident that devotional service will protect them from all distress. In truth, the bees of Vrindavan are better than other sages because the bees never stop singing the glories of Krishna, whereas other sages sometimes fall silent, absorbed in ecstatic trance. These bees are like great Vaishnava Munis who never stop seeking Krishna, even though he is hidden in the forest of the Vedas. Though his pastimes are difficult to understand and his service is difficult to achieve, the determined Vaishnavas never abandon him. They strive to locate his glories even on the paths of karma and jnana. They always sing these glories and promote them as the most serviceable spiritual asset. So they realize Krishna directly as the indwelling supersoul of all jivas, their worshipful Supreme Lord. As Vaishnava sages surrender to Krishna, giving up everything to serve him in pure love, so do the devotees of Vrindavan. So the devotees are trying to follow Krishna everywhere. And find Krishna in everyone's heart. That's what Sankirtan's all about. We realize Krishna is in everyone's heart. We can approach everyone. We can chant anywhere. And know that it's pleasing to Krishna and therefore it's benedicting everybody. Next verse. The charming flute song steals away the minds of the cranes, swans, and other lake-dwelling birds. Indeed, they approach Krishna, close their eyes, and maintaining strict silence, worship him by fixing their consciousness upon him in deep meditation. Commentary. This is another verse sung by the gopis who were trying to console one another during the daytime. When Krishna was absent, the birds of Vraja are superior to the bugs and insects. But even among the bird, there are different levels of Krishna consciousness. The waterfowl are a little less fortunate than the others because they have less opportunity to be close to Krishna. The waterfowl, described in this verse, live in a faraway lake filled with clean water, clusters of lotuses, and other various attractions. Innumerable cranes, swans, and other birds forever sport in that lake. But when they hear the beautiful song of Krishna's flute, their minds are captivated. First they become bewildered and fly about madly in all directions. Then they return to the lake and settle down to engage in serious worship of Lord Hari. To fix their attention exclusively on him, they restrain their minds, bodies, and speech. They subdue their minds, close their eyes, and resort to complete silence, bringing not only mind, sight, and speech, but all the senses under strict control. Or, understanding the word upasata, to mean they approached rather than they worshipped, the birds leave the lake to come near Krishna and sit by his side. Being close to Krishna gives them the highest pleasure, as shown by the way they become peaceful, closing their eyes and staying silent. The word hanta in this verse indicates joy and surprise, but it can also be taken to express disappointment, and accordingly the whole statement of this verse can be understood in a different way. The birds approach Krishna and apparently calm down, but were their minds actually peaceful? Not at all. Taking the liberty of adding a negative prefix a to the words milita and drita mona, we can read te yata chitta hanta milita disho drita monaha. The birds could not control their minds, atta ayata chitta, could not close their eyes, amilita drisha, and could not be silent, adrita monaha. Their meditation on Krishna caused such ecstatic mental transformations that they couldn't possibly keep their minds calm. They were in such anxiety from being unable to see Krishna that they couldn't close their eyes, which even lost the natural ability to blink. And they took such loud sankirtan of Krishna's name that any trace of sobriety was out of the question. Or understanding the bird's condition another way, as a result of worshipping Krishna by meditating on him, they attain the ecstasy of murcha, loss of consciousness. Their minds dissolving in oblivion, they simply closed their eyes and fell silent. In other words, the gopis speaking implies, though these birds are members of different species of life, though they live in the sky, though they are males, and though they live in a distant lake where they are busy enjoying in various ways, the song of Krishna's flute has forcibly dragged them to Krishna's association. Concentrating their minds on Krishna has awakened in the birds a transcendental prema that has destroyed their natural peace and thoughtfulness, disturbed their consciousness with all sorts of agitation, and rendered them completely bewildered. What can be said then of the constant state of the gopis who have no other purpose in life than to serve Krishna? They too must be suffering, but much more severely. Next verse. O Mother, in this forest all the birds have risen into the beautiful branches of the trees to see Krishna. With closed eyes they are simply listening in silence to the sweet vibrations of his flute, and they are not attracted by any other sound. Surely these birds are on the same level as great sages. Comment. Another gopi, enchanted by hearing Krishna's flute, sings this verse, 21:14, to Mother Yasoda, or else to a girlfriend. Here, even more fortunate birds are glorified, those who live in the same trees that provide shade for Krishna, as he wanders about the Vrindavan forest. All the birds in Vrindavan should be recognized as great sages, or as indicated by the word prayaha, taken to mean many. The sages are not so numerous in Braj, but there are many birds. These birds are able to hear the mellow song of Krishna's flute, which Krishna plays for the enjoyment of the cows and cowherd boys and girls of Vrindavan. When Krishna is far away, the birds may not hear the sound distinctly, but still its effect on them is vivid. That sound bestows upon them the vision of Krishna, Krishnasya Ikshitam. And by bringing them to the tops of the trees, it also becomes a means by which Krishna sees them, Krishnena Ikshitam. The flute song is called Krishnikshitam, seen by Krishna, in the sense that only Krishna can conceive of such beautiful music. It is produced from Krishna, Krishnasya Uritam, and this suggests that the sound of the flute creates an opportunity for the birds to perceive Krishna by hearing. Hearing the sound is another way for them to see Krishna, who is not easily visible to them through the abundant foliage. Though the rich new growth of the branches makes it difficult for the birds to see Krishna, it also attracts Krishna to the trees to pick the fresh leaves, fruits, and flowers. So the birds put aside their normal business of foraging and fly to the highest branches, where the leaves and twigs don't block the line of sight between them and Krishna. Perched in the treetops, eyes closed in meditation, the birds appear like great sages. Indeed, sages who want to devote themselves to Krishna perch themselves on various branches of trees of the Vedas, which bear the attractive tender twigs of various methods for spiritual advancement. The sages learn from the Vedas how to realize Krishna, and with enthusiasm they practice the disciplines approved by the Vedas, such as offering to Krishna the results of their work. But even while seriously studying the Vedas and pondering what they mean, the sages become attracted to hearing Krishna's all-attractive flute and become eager to see him. They cease to be attached to their Vedic education and instead become attached to seeing Krishna constantly in their hearts. Closing their eyes in great ecstasy, they then dedicate themselves exclusively to his Nama Sankirtan. Or else it may be understood that sages devoted to the personality of Godhead come to Vrindavan forest to become birds and listen to the song of his flute. According to the commentary of Srila Sridhar Swami, all sages, even if content in their own selves, should become birds in the Vrindavan forest. Or granting that some sages are disqualified from entrance into Vrindavan because they are less fortunate and confused by Maya, at least most of them should, Praya. They should become birds in Vrindavan because thus they can easily achieve what they aspire for and much more. Because the birds living in Vrindavan forest have a great fortune to be able to hear Krishna's flute so often, they should be acknowledged to be greater devotees than the bees. And thinking about the birds make Krishna's girlfriend even more disappointed than before. How terrible it is. We don't have such unalloyed devotion to Krishna. We can't see Krishna or hear his flute when he goes to the forest. We can't renounce everything and climb the branches of the tree. And when we don't see him, we can't simply stop talking and close our eyes like the birds. To hell with us gopis. Next verse. Blessed are all these foolish deer because they have approached Maharaj Nanda's gorgeously dressed son after hearing him play on the flute. Indeed, both the doe and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and devotion. Commentary. In this verse, 10:21:11, another gopi glorifies a deer. The deer, being similar in species to cows and other creatures tended by the personality of Godhead, are able to accompany him while grazing. Danyaha sma means the deer are fortunate. After considering the grammatical license granted to saintly authors like Vasudev, another way to understand Danyaha sma, we are fortunate. If this is possible if we allow Srila Vasudev the liberty of leaving off the final letter of the word smaha, we are. The way it is sometimes left off in the text of the Vedas. In other words, we consider it our great fortune that these deer have responded to the flute song of our beloved Sri Nanda Nandana by approaching to worship him with all respect. The worship done by the deer is very simple, being performed with nothing more than loving glances. The deer had no paraphernalia at their disposal for worship, and other than these loving glances, nothing would have satisfied Krishna, as expressed by the prefix V in the word virachitam, well arranged. The deer's method of worship was exceptionally pleasing to Krishna. The deer saw Krishna decorated with wonderful forest ornaments like flower garlands and with peacock feathers and gunja berries in his hair. Thus, even though the deer had taken birth as unintelligent animals, mudamati, they were supremely fortunate. Or, understanding the meaning of mudamataya differently, just by hearing Krishna's flute, the deer lost their power to think clearly, and their internal and external senses all became stunned. This is the natural influence of Vraj. Even living beings possessed of various skills are derived of them by the vibration of Krishna's flute and rendered dumb and immobile like inert beings. The doe normally stay hidden deep within the forest, but the sound of Krishna's flute drew them out into the open, where they came near Krishna and, beholding his beauty, were bewildered by Cupid. In that condition, they could think of nothing but him. They simply gazed at him in great love, as if worshipping him, and their husbands also reacted the same way to the song of Krishna's flute. The doe and bucks, these most exalted animals, were endowed with such deep love for the Supreme Lord that they could never become proud of their good fortune. They always behaved like innocent creatures. The gopis meditate on the devotional service of the deer. They cannot help but think, these deer are fortunate because they can worship Krishna along with their husbands, but our foolish husbands cannot tolerate our worship of Krishna. Therefore, despite being born as human beings, fully able to understand and act, we are fortunate. In fact, we are unfortunate. We are most unfortunate. Even though born in a very virtuous and clever cowherd caste, because we cannot follow Krishna and listen to his flute while he wanders about in the forest dressed. We cannot gaze on him with wide open eyes, filled with love, and serve him with pleasing glances. And even if a few of us occasionally perform such service for him, our husbands object. The word Krishna Sara means the black deer, but the word Sara also means important. So the gopis think the husbands of the deer are called Krishna Saras because only Krishna is important to them. The attitude of our husbands, however, is just the opposite. Actually, the cowherd men are the most fortunate, Vaishnavas, exclusively devoted to Krishna. Still, the gopis, as subordinate as wives, feel shy to disclose to their husbands their worship of Krishna. Constrained by the husband and wife relationship, the gopis have to worship Krishna secretly as a paramour. This unique style of worship enables the gopis to achieve the extreme limit of success, the highest degree of pure love for Krishna. I'm going to stop in a few minutes, but just comment. This is a humility, and it's mentioned over and over again here, the devotees, they always feel like they're not the best devotees, that all the other devotees are better. Srimad Bhagavatamrita ki jai.